I just realized I started the show with my microphone on mute. That's how my day has been going. Excuse me for that. This is Across the Pitch post game show. I am Mike Barrera. I know I see the comments coming in now. I'm muted. I am so sorry. I've had a very long day. I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm just trying to share out my links right now, and it just was not my brain wasn't working there. So my apologies there. Philadelphia Union pulled off a win that is kind of like how the weather is outside. It's sluggish, it's muggy, it's brutal. It's one of those games that you feel like you just were just over it by the time the game was over. That's how I felt. By the time the second half was over, I was like, man, that was a slugfest. Like that was one of those games that just kind of dragged and dragged and dragged. But regardless, Philadelphia Union have earned their 13th consecutive game with a point, whether it be MLS play and Open Cup. They are now unbeaten in 11 straight MLS matches. And it's absolutely phenomenal what they're doing here because this team today was depleted, to say the least. I mean, you don't have Ua, you don't have Rebo. Bueno's a little banged up. Even though Danley Jean Jacques is back from international duty, he wasn't in the roster. You really just were kind of thinking, okay, I almost forgot. Quinn Sullivan's still out. Nathan Harrell's still out with international duty. Olivier Bizo didn't play. Frankie Westfield had an ankle injury. So it's one of those things where you were thinking, how is Carnell going to get creative here and put together a starting rotation? Um, I was expecting Periano to play on right back. I saw people flirting around with Lukic playing a right back. We've seen him play right back before a little bit this season. I have seen online as well. What are we going to do with Bueno if he can start? Are we going to put a three in the back? There were so many different discussions on Twitter and Facebook today about how the Union were going to approach this game. But let's look at the starting 11. I know we're going to get into this 1-0 outcome in a few minutes, but before we do it, let me just look at the starting lineup because it really was something. It's a kudos to Carnell for doing what he can. You had Andrew Rick in net once again. Andre Blake again still on international duty. Kai Wagner, Makanya, Glesnes, and Bedoya in the back line. You had Lukic and Raffanello. I was not expecting Raffanello to start, but I thought he played pretty solid. So Raffanello started alongside Lukic. You had Ben Bender and Vasilev. I think that's probably ones that we all expect at that point behind the forwards. And then you had Chris Donovan and Bruno Damiani. And that was, I don't know, a lot to be desired. But again, we're going to get to that in a second. For the bench, though, because reading this bench out loud is just very amusing to me. Jesus Bueno, again, he was a little banged up at the end of the previous match. Marcus Anderson, Eddie Davis, Pariano, Semele, LaFleur, Olney, Neil Pierre, and David Vasquez. So once again, in the second consecutive match for the Philadelphia Union, they have the entire Union 2 roster essentially as their subs. And entering again tonight, you figured Chicago's probably going to be favored. Even though they're missing some players as well, you have to imagine that the Union eventually will lose the game. And I think a lot of us probably thought today might be the day that you drop a point. And it would have been okay if they did. It would have been fine. We would have said, you know what? There's a lot of context that goes behind that L. That's fine. But somehow they pulled it off. So before I continue with my conversation here, and I think Jose and other people are going to join us as well tonight, let's bring in some comments. Valerie says, or Joe joins us first. So hello, Joe. How you doing? Valerie says an all-star team. We'll get to the all-star stuff in a second, Val. Don't let me forget to talk about the all-star game, the selections, and the very poorly designed kit as well. John says Indy Vasilev Masterclass. Domesticated Hoagie says deep dish dupe. I like that, Hoagie. That's a good one right there. And then Sean says our B team with a huge win. So let's look at the first half here. Actually, no. You know what? I'm gonna go back to the point I was gonna make with MLS All Star before I forget, because Valerie, I will forget. So the MLS All Star selections came out. Somehow Kai Wagner did not make the list. I saw a lot of fans on Twitter very upset by that. I think rightfully so. Kai Wagner has been one of the best left backs in MLS. He continues to shine this season. We have collectively said, I think a lot of us have said, that he's probably one of your most valuable players on this roster, right? You're thinking Lukic, Danley, Kai Wagner. At this point, Jacob Glesnes is probably in this conversation with the most valuable players on the squad. You can go through a bunch of them, right? But Kai Wagner is definitely in your top three. So for him to not make the MLS All-Star list is just mind-boggling. But let's give a kudos and the celebratory moment here for Ty Brebo, MLS Golden Boot leader. That's great for him, and I'm also glad to see him back from Israel. Now he's in the United States, safe and sound over here. But Jacob Glesnes gets a call for the MLS All Star, and I was actually uh, pretty. I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I was like, I was pleased. It was nice to see Jacob get rewarded for what has been a bounce back season. We all know what happened last year. We all know the injury stuff. We all know that Curtin ran him to the ground in 2023. We know all this. But for Jacob to have the season he's had so far, and he's had some downs. Let's not say he's been perfect the entire season. I think we all can agree he's had some bumps on the road, especially in the first couple weeks. But I think one of the things that you don't give Glesnes enough credit for this season is how he's had to basically be the leader in the center back room every single match. Whether it's Glavinovic still getting used to the system in the few games he's played with us. I think he's played 2 games with us. Nathan Harriel in a different position again this season at center back. Makanya, although playing much better, and he's definitely more reliable for sure. I really liked how he played tonight. He's still learning, still a young kid. You have obviously Neil Pierre in the wings as well, learning on the training ground. So not only has Jacob Glesnes improved his game on the field, but it's doing it alongside people that aren't Jack Elliott or Stuart Finley or Damian Lowe, who are seasoned veterans. It's been really impressive, and I think all of us can probably agree in some way that Jacob Glesnes might have been the man of the match tonight. And I think he was on the Apple broadcast, if I remember watching the end of that correctly. He was always in the right spot at the right time. He had a massive save at the end of the game to keep it to a 1-0 score. He was great. And you have to think too, you're making up for the fact that Alejandro Bedoya is playing right back, and we're going to get to that in a second as well. But Jacob Glesnes was fantastic tonight. If you're going to look at MLS All-Star and does he deserve it? Yeah, I think after tonight's performance, it makes sense. He is definitely an MLS All-Star, and he's becoming one of the most valuable pieces of this roster that continues to shine. Again, we'll bring up some more comments here. Mandy says, would have sent all the kids out there. They're used to playing together and could run circles around the old men. Colin says, no more Dono. Great win, but I'm just saying it. Colin, we're going to get to that in a bit too, because I mean, he contributed to the penalty kick. Kudos to Donovan, but it was another let down performance for him when he really had a chance to make an impact. But we went on Donovan a lot last week, so I'm not going to drill him too much this week, but I think it's worth talking about again. Mandy says Kai was listed as second in votes for almost the entirety of the voting process, so I'm confused what changed. Absolutely agree to that as well. It sucks that, Messi made sure Alba made it, that some of these bigger names make it over Kai Wagner, but we all know that Kai Wagner is the best left back in MLS. Even from just an assist standpoint alone, he is so dangerous in the attack. Sean says, let's not forget he's fully healthy again. Yeah, regarding Jacob Glesnes, absolutely. He is fully healthy, and I'm holding my breath today. He went down a couple times. I saw him grab the back of his right knee, held my breath there. I think he got banged up a little bit after that moment as well. So healthy, playing really confident, and playing with these youngsters and really leading the way. He certainly has earned that captain band that he's worn a few times this season. Valerie and John both say, yeah, he was Apple's man of the match. Okay, yeah, absolutely agree with that as well. Cole says, only negative about Glesnes was his yellow card, which makes him unavailable next game, I think. Yes, that is one thing. Let's keep on the Glesnes and the center back, since this conversation has been is active right now. So let's look at next week. Glavinovic, from our understanding, is still on the mend. It doesn't seem like he's going to be back anytime soon, even if, hypothetically speaking, he were to come back by Sunday. There's no way he's starting on Sunday. I mean, there's no shot. He doesn't have game fitness. So you're crossing your fingers that the stars align, that he maybe makes the bench. But I think Mandy nails it right here. It's Neil time. It's Neil Pierre time. And you're going to go into a very, very difficult environment and throw this kid into the fire. And this is absolutely going to be learning by just being thrown into the fire and being thrown into the wolves. But I think with all the hype that's around Neil Pierre, yeah, let's give it a shot. I think that Makanya and Pierre should get more playing time together, and it's a good competition. And I'm really excited. I think Cole says right here, I'm so excited for Pierre. Yeah, and there's a great chance that we lose against Columbus. Absolutely great chance. And I think this is one of those games where you're kind of okay with it. It's one of those you have to just let the kids go out there, get us as far as we possibly can, wait for our reinforcements to come back from international duty and from injury. I know Ua has the adductor, and Baribo is obviously still coming back from being away in Israel. Let's just let these kids go and see how far we can get. And maybe you never know. We get surprised again. We were surprised last year in Portland. We were surprised again tonight. I'd argue we were surprised in Montreal. We were surprised in Toronto. I was talking to someone on Twitter, Brian Wagner or Wagner. I'm not sure his real name. That's just his Twitter handle. We don't play well in Chicago, is what he told me. I said, yeah, you're right. We haven't played well historically in Chicago. It's been a difficult place for us to play. It's been like an odd team for us to go against. They just seem to always really give us tough matches. But this is a new club. Anything that we thought we knew from the Curtin era has to just go out the window at this point. The stats and those vibes and that energy and the culture is just, it's gone. It's in the past. Carnell has put his stamp on this franchise and this club and this roster, and it's at this point we don't know what to expect, but for sure this team's going to play 1,000% from the minute the whistle blows to the minute it blows at the final end of the game. It's absolutely phenomenal what Carnell's been able to do with this team. Go through some more comments as well. Vince says Makani and Frankie with Mbaiza, a right back is more likely. Yeah, Olivier. Well, that's true. Listen, Frankie could play center back as well. I know we talked about Chris Donovan as a joke playing center back. Colin says Bedoya is a new center back incoming. It's gonna be. I feel like Pierre has earned the spot. I know you guys are just going with Frankie and Olivia. I get it, but I think we're talking about everyone who's made appearances for so far this season. Let's let this kid play. Let's let him start. Whether we win or lose, let's see what happens, because that was a problem that we had last year that we were all bitching about last year. Why can't McConaughey come in? Why can't Stuart Finley come in? Why this and this and this? There were so many times with Curtin that we were complaining that players weren't playing. So now that you have a kid who's really like at this time, this is his time to play. Let's not try to take away from him. Let him have this moment. So yeah, could you throw Frankie in there? Could you throw Bedoya? Sure, you can have all these different variations of players. Maybe Lukic, whatever you want to do at center back. But I think it's worth giving him a shot. Vince says we'll know after tomorrow's Union 2 game. Yeah, Vince, you'll have to keep us posted there. Philly Rover says Bedoya at center back would be great. Again, we'll talk about Bedoya in a second. Sean says Makani shows them more minutes and adversities kids face, the more the game rises. Yeah, listen, Sean, every single person that's made an appearance this season for us has really excelled and shown that they are ready for this level of competition, whether it be Makani, Frankie, Marcus Anderson, maybe not Chris Donovan as much, but I mean, Eddie Davis finally seen some minutes. Kevin Sullivan's played okay. Like, I'm not saying he's played well. I'm not going to say Sullivan's been this phenom, but in the limited time that Kevin has had, he's played fine. So again, there's these opportunities these young players are getting, and they're doing pretty damn okay with it, I'd say. Evan says Vince, Frankie, and Biza are both hurt. Hair with the U.S. men's national team. Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on where Frankie and Olivier stand on the injury report. We'll probably know by Friday afternoon. Cole says sprained ankles can take a while. Yeah, absolutely. We don't know exactly the extent of their injuries. Again, we have the injury with Ua as well. That seems like that could linger probably into next week, if not longer. Cole says, I feel like Carnell has a lot of trust in Pierre. And I think so too. And that's also, though, Cole, why I thought Periano was going to play today, because he has the trust in the young guys. Now, I'm not complaining that he didn't play, but that was my impression. Like, he's giving these guys a chance. I thought Periano was going to see the field at the right back position, but again, wasn't his day, but he did make the bench, so good for him. Vince says center backs, we don't need no stinking center backs. I love it. And Evan says Bedoya right back, Pierre and Kanye center back, and Wagner left back. Interesting. I don't hate it. I don't know if a Bedoya can go another 90 minutes at right back. He seemed pretty gassed tonight, especially on short rest. But we're going to see. We're going to see how much the captain has to offer. And then Manny says, shocked that Nicky never got subbed in. Yeah, exactly as well. So a lot of great comments coming. Sean says, will Blake and Danley be back on Sunday? So Jamaica's done with the Gold Cup. So honestly, it depends on when he comes back. So we're probably going to know Friday. Danley is back, so I'm hoping that Danley's available come Sunday. I don't see why he wouldn't be. I mean, they were basically giving him a full rest. I think Haiti played on Saturday. One of you guys can probably correct me there. I can't remember when Haiti played last, so he'll be a full week off. Even with travel and everything, he's probably gonna be okay to go on Sunday. So I expect him to be back. Blake, I don't know. And at the same time, if Blake doesn't play, Andrew Rick's been pretty damn good. So Cole says Sunday. Okay, so like a full week then. Mandy says, can LaFleur play right back? I saw people floating that around as well, Mandy. I don't think he has played right back from what I saw on Twitter. Again, I could be completely wrong there. It seems like he's more suited for the left-hand side. But at the same time, we didn't expect Nathan Harry to play the 10 this year. We have seen Vasilev play at the top and the bottom of the midfield. So I'm not going to rule it out that maybe Carnell gets creative. Yeah, possibly. At this point, it's all hands on deck. For the roster that we have, it doesn't really matter where you played before. All options are on the table here. Sean says Stanley sitting in front of whoever replaces Glessens will be a huge help, and that's a great point, Sean. If you're going to have Lukic and Danley in front of Pierre, that's massive. If Frankie can come back as well, that's also massive. So you're going to have at least a good squad around whoever that next center back is, and hopefully Makanya can lead Pierre. Now I've talked about Glessens leading Makanya. It's now time for Makanya to be the leader for whoever fills in that slot. And I'm considering probably likely going to be Pierre. Yeah, let's see if he can be vocal and communicate well and be a good counterpart to him on that back line in front of a very good Columbus squad. Mandy says after that last Jamaica match, I'm okay if Blake wants to take a few more games off. It's weird to say that, Mandy. Before 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we would have done anything to get Andre Blake back in between the pipes. But this season's different. It really is. We have more faith in the back line. We have more faith in the midfield. I think across the board, in all the games we've played so far this season, the defensive mids have been excellent, whether it been Bueno, Vasilev, we've seen Bedoya, Danley, Lukic. I think that's been one of the biggest strengths of this team. We talked about that on our mid-season kind of recap show. When you have that in front of the goalkeeper, and there's such a difficult line to break for the opposite team, not having Andre starting isn't exactly the worst thing in the world. And Andrew Rick's playing really confident. And it kind of goes back to what Jose Nunez has talked about for the last 2.5 seasons. Respect to Alejandro Bedoya. We love him, but it's time to phase him out. It's basically the same conversation we're having here. Absolute respect to Andre Blake. You can't really compare the talent level for Andre Blake and Alejandro. Alejandro is great, absolutely, but Blake is arguably one of the best MLS keepers in history, right? They're on two different spectrums there. But regardless, somebody's got to go with what's working. And if maybe he needs a break after Jamaica, I'm not going to be upset by it. Take a couple off, whatever you might need to, and let Rick work in front of that back line. Jose, I see you in the studio. I'm going to bring up you on right here. Sir, I've got a couple comments I want to bring up, but I'm going to say hello to you first. How was Carnell's press conference tonight?
I think this is the first or second time, and I can't recall exactly, so don't quote me on this, but it feels like the first or second time that he's ever actually made an opening statement. And it was glowing, right? For all the right reasons in terms of it is tough to go into these mandatory breaks for 5 days and then have to get ramped back up in 4 days, right? Where some of these guys have been literally at the beach and then suddenly they're asked to get their bodies back in rhythm for matches. It just leads to injuries. Yep. But he spoke very highly, right? Like this is again just another fascinating performance where it feels like he is plugging and playing some of the old toys that maybe that Jim maybe set aside or maybe was thinking about not using as much.
Yep.
And suddenly he's plugging them in and playing and they're working, right? Alejandro Bedoya, he shared an anecdote during a press conference where the idea was that Lukic was going to play right back.
Right.
But apparently he mentioned that the boys got together, the leadership group got together and said, you know what? And Bedoya was the one who approached Bradley and said, we've talked about it. I think I want to go up against someone like, this striker and Dembaba or what, forget his name is, like
Bamba.
Bamba, like sacrificing himself and going up against a very talented striker. So it's it was fascinating. I'm just it was a great performance all around.
So we basically in this few first 20 minutes that we've had this show, it's been a lot of positive comments. One of the biggest discussion is how is this lineup going to look like come Sunday because Jacob Lessons will not be there. Of course, still some doubts about Frankie Westfield, Olivier's health, etc. So Vince, one of the topics we talked about was LaFleur. Can he play right back? So Vince adds here, LaFleur can play right back. Played there a few times for Union 2, naturally left-footed, but can't do it. So Vince, that's great. If Bedoya's gas, or maybe he can't play a full 90 on Sunday, maybe LaFleur slots in on the right back position. Cole says right here, I don't rule anyone playing anywhere with Carnell. Exactly. Damiani's going to play right back on Sunday. You heard it here first, right? Jokingly, of course. Janice says the team is something special. It's so fun to watch. Again, these comments coming in. Mandy, haven't seen him play much with injuries, so wasn't sure what he had in his kit. Yeah. Also, LaFleur was gone all season last year, so we really don't have a big sample size outside of Union 2 what he can do. But according to Jillian and Vince and all these people who follow Union 2 so well, he seems like he's really kind of coming into his own on that roster. So that's great to see. Mandy says it helps that Andrew's fantastic as well, just keeps getting better and better. And Jose, kind of the point that Mandy's talking about here is how long do you sit Andre Blake when he comes back from Jamaica? Do you give him a little extended time to kind of recoup? What are your thoughts there on specifically Blake, considering Rick's playing pretty damn good?
Yeah, I'm not. I must admit, I'm not sure if there's just to answer the question or in my head as I'm working through it. So you're getting to see it live, the dumb gears working, but it was league or CBA slash MLS Player Association mandated that the guys, that the team got 5 days off in the middle of the season during this international tournament to especially after that month of May and I guess the first week or two of June, it was just unbelievable that they played that much. I don't know how it applies for players that, if you think about it, have not stopped since before. Like they never got really this break. Danley played all 3 matches for Haiti. Obviously, Blake did as well for Jamaica. So I'm not sure if there's a mandatory break here. But say that there isn't a mandatory break, it's tough. That last Jamaica game was very, very tough. The first goal was very, nothing he could do. It was a deflection. The second goal snuck right underneath him from his, near post across. And then one of them was a penalty, nothing, whatever. It's a 50-50. And then the fourth was just obviously that ridiculous, he just got, passed around him type of thing. Yep. I don't know how do you break it? How do you I'm not a coach, but how do you have this conversation with Andrew Rick, right? Like, listen, you just had a clean sheet against a very good Chicago side. You played well, sure. Glessness supplemented.
A high scoring Chicago side too, not just overall. Yeah, right. They know how to put it in the net. Yeah.
So how do you have this conversation with Andrew and say, well, now he's back, you got to sit? And obviously, Andre is making quite a bit of money compared to Andrew Rick. So it's that also comes into the equation when you think about what happens after this season with Andre.
Well,
right?
That's kind of what I talked about before you jumped on, was your conversation we've had on this show countless times about Alejandro Bedoya and how you move on from him as your leader, as your rotation, as your 90-minute guy every game. And I feel like this conversation eventually has to go in Blake. But the thing with goalkeeper is such a different position than anything else on the field. It's not one you just interchange every single match. It's usually you have one starter and then that's it. So it's going to be a more unique approach on how they handle this Bedoya move. But as Janice says here, Blake may be aging, but he's still a solid force in the back. He's constantly giving orders. He's our starter. And it's not like he's played poorly, Janice, in the time he has played for us. He's been playing fine. Granted, the defense in front of him has been better than in the past, since last year and the year before that. So that helps as well. But yeah, I think when healthy, Blake has been fine. But the problem is that he just cannot stay healthy. Also, Noah jokingly says, "Why weren't the benches sitting in the locker room until halftime? I thought that was a new normal because that's what the big Europeans do." I laughed at that, Noah. Thank you for that. Manny says, and he gets paid less than half of what a good old Dono does. Yeah, we saw the MLS pay sheets come out. I saw you put that on Twitter. I wanted to ask you about that once you signed on. Any thoughts on the Union's salary there?
Outside of the immediate, 29th ranked salary overall,
Mhm.
but top of the entire league is pretty telling of the approach. And I know you're not okay with it. I know that many others are not, but it goes to show that it's a team or an organization that's valuing building from within rather than bringing in.
Mhm.
It's also really interesting to see just how crazy value this team has gotten in terms from their scouting department, but also whoever is, whether it's Ernst or Ernst and company and negotiating some of these contracts to have Danley and Lukic just below $1 million combined.
Yeah,
It's
that's massive.
it's unbelievable. And then I think that the biggest other piece is um, to indulge me. Ty Baribo, $810,000
Yeah.
compared to Emmanuel Latela with making over $4 million and $4 million and having not even half the goals that the guy has. So it's pretty telling. And I guess the final piece is within that sheet, and please feel free to use it. I share it on Twitter. It's public. You guys can see the edits as I make them, year over year comparison, that type of stuff. It's pretty telling to see why Daniel Gastag wanted to leave in terms of the salary bump that he got. He got a healthy raise.
Yeah.
I was surprised with Jack Elliott. He only got a 10% raise. But someone like Gastag he's well into the $2.5 million. Um, if I'm being honest, that's a high amount, and don't blame him. Get the bag,
Well, our buddy Mark says, that's why the staff are highly sought after. Hopefully, Ernst sees out the season. I think. I mean, this conversation kind of goes into the whole thing we had with Mueller was it this past week, right? My brain's fried at this point with the union stuff. So fans are upset that we didn't go after him. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the whole, you know, topic
Um,
because it's a sensitive issue for our fans.
I I I don't get excited about a 30 what is he 35, 36-year-old German
36, yeah.
coming in. I personally don't get excited. Bradley Cornell was asked by Karith Gabriel of the Inquirer about the speculation, the rumors, etc. Bradley was sort of static, like and hypothetical speaking, like he would fit right in. But the
Hmm.
reality is that we already have the Thomas Muellers of the world in terms of leadership and jokesters and people that bring teams together. But the one thing that Thomas has done is win and win a lot.
A lot,
So
yeah.
um, I personally, like for that type of salary, whatever the demand is, like go find 3 or 4 young South Americans that are U22 level, right? Go find some of this talent again, like Danley and Lukic. I, I play FIFA so much, and I didn't even know who they were, right? So it's incredible that they were able to get those players in and the way that they have exploded. And I guess the final thing I'll say is, with all the respect to Ernst, but like, why the fuck is he even talking about this? Like, why is he
Yeah.
even commenting on this, right?
Keep that to yourself, bud. So here's my thoughts on it, and I posted this on Twitter as well. I don't think fans are upset that we didn't get specifically him. I think fans are upset the fact that our team cannot or will not spend to get somebody of that caliber, with that pedigree, of that, obviously winning mentality. He's won so much over his career. But at the same time, I think Kevin Kincaid boasts of this. The Union need to go after like the Cuchos of the world.
Yeah.
Someone that's a really, really good player, but not somebody on Messi's or Mueller or Ronaldo's level. We're not going to break the bank for these players, but someone you spend maybe $8 million or $5 million. We're not saying we had to spend 35. We're just asking for a little bit more. That's I think that's where the line is with Union fans. That it's phenomenal that we're getting all these bargain players. It's absolutely phenomenal. But at the same time, with that saved money, then let's maybe then spend a little bit more, because this team still, as we saw today, has some depth issues in terms of experience. So God, it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit, just one extra nice guy out there. That's all.
To Mandy's point here, I didn't even look at this in terms of like the Google Trends. Like after that article came out, how many Germans? And I know you can on Google Analytics like pinpoint which areas, but like how many Europeans surged Philadelphia Union after they saw that article come out with Ernst Tanner talking about Thomas Mueller? Like
Yeah,
kind of like when Fabrizio Romano spoke about Chris Donovan getting his deal. Like I remember
that was
looking at
crazy.
the Google Analytics, and I'm like, holy shit! Like this is like 20-fold searching in terms of just like a span of like 30 minutes. It was yeah, whatever. Again, I'm still confused onto why there was even a need to give a comment on it, but whatever, man. Like he can
I
do whatever he
almost
wants. He's
agree.
successful.
Yeah, he's certainly an interesting individual. Jillian Almany has joined us tonight. Hello, Jillian. Basically, our conversation we're talking about right now is like this roster is doing well. It's working better than any of us have expected. There is some issues with depth, as you can see today. Not even just because we have a lot of inexperienced players, but obviously we now have injury issues on top of that. So the conversation was like, well, we're not trying to get someone of a high, like Messi caliber. Maybe if you spend a little bit extra money, like a $5-8 million player like Cucho, this team goes to the next level. So to Valerie's point, she says we're number one and we still complain. But to my counterpoint to you, Valerie, is we're number one, but can this team can sustain that success as is for the rest of the season? So I wanted to get your thoughts on this roster, Jillian, and maybe just how much faith have you built in them, considering a performance like tonight, which really again absolutely blows your mind. They were able to sneak this one out.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've gotten this far. I mean, if they haven't made you a believer yet, I mean, I don't know. The fact that they are able to get these wins despite they're missing these people and they got this up against them, that shows you a good team and that they can do that. That shows that they're really buying into what Bradley is doing, and they're all on the same page. And when I asked Bradley in the presser about Eddie making his debut, which I'm thrilled about, by the way. So good for Eddie. And not gonna lie, I love seeing Marcus and Eddie up top there. It's like, Union
awesome.
2 there. But anyway, like they're all like on the same page though, like what Ryan Richter's doing down at Union 2. They really all have that alignment. So I think that's been huge. They can plug in everyone. I mean, I'm thinking maybe we see Neil Pierre on Sunday, which hey, Neil's the real deal. And yeah, it's a jump to next pro, from next pro to MLS level, but hey, you don't know what you have till you give them a chance. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it wouldn't hurt to spend a little bit, not spend ridiculous, but yeah, like I feel like they could use someone, bring in someone just because they could use that depth. But yeah, they don't need to break the bank necessarily. But
one thing we really haven't talked about tonight is actually tonight's match. I think we've all been talking about like next week with Columbus, and I think Jose joined about the salary stuff. But one person I think we should talk about tonight in tonight's performance was Indy Vassilev. I thought he had a really, really strong match, and I have been critical of Indy in the recent episodes we've had. I said that he's had some issues finishing. I think he's had some issues in the final third with passing, but I think tonight was a perfect match for Indy. It was just one of those games where you just have to be really scrappy for 90 minutes. I'll ask both of you guys this question. Jillian, we'll go with you first. What were your thoughts on Indy's performance? And I guess if you want to throw Bender in there, since he was alongside him up top.
Yeah, no, I thought Indy did pretty well. It was less of him running around, not really like accomplishing anything. Sometimes I feel like he's just running around and running around. But no, I thought he did a good job in, actually accomplishing things this time around and being a pest as he's good at. So honestly, yeah, I thought it was pretty solid from him. I think, that I thought Ben, he did a good job as well. And I wasn't able to see some of the beginning of the game because I was on my way home from coaching, but but it looked like, yeah, he was solid in there as well. I thought, Rafa was fine. Those guys plugged in and did a good job. And, Jovan is good. Like, honestly, they all just did what they were expected to do there.
I wouldn't say outside of Glesnes anybody had like a phenomenal performance. Maybe Indy was probably the next one up there, but I think you're right. I think they all just like understood their role really well and just stuck to the plan. Jose, what were your thoughts on Vassilev, Bender, or if you want to address any other player that maybe stood out to you, like Lukic or anyone else?
Yeah, Indy did great. I'm Static. I actually was going to ask about this, but of course, the way it happened, someone else asked. But how meaningful that penalty kick was for Bruno, right? It was pretty obvious in terms of two interactions that I noticed. One was Indy Vassilev when he handed the ball over to Bruno. It was pretty apparent that Bruno is the designated kicker of these penalty spot kicks now that Gastag's gone. But it was pretty obvious that I want you to succeed. It was just, I don't know. I just picked up on it. It stuck with me. But then during the substitution, it was pretty obvious that something was said between Damiani and Carnell, and it was just all smiles. And typically the way that it's worked over the last couple of months, in fact, his last goal in MLS was on April 26th against Washington, D.C., against D.C. United. But if you fast forward and you include Open Cup, his last goal, Damiani's last goal, was May 21st against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So it's been quite some time for him to score. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that this sort of, even though it was a penalty spot, a penalty kick, it's still shed some weight off of his shoulders. So I think that's very helpful, and hopefully he picks up a sort of momentum. But I think you guys spoke very well about some of these guys, but I think someone who went sort of quiet and again, to use the trademark Jim Curtin lingo jargon, it's like sneaky good game from Jovan Lukic, who, while he was on the ball, he was doing very well to spread it. Yes, he got caught in possession a couple of times, but the reality is that he was really orchestrating without Danley. Someone had to do it. He was doing a really good job of orchestrating the press and making sure that, Raffanella's going to press, or if Raffanella's going up, Jovan staying back and lending a hand to, because he's still mistake prone, to help out Macania or give Glesnes a bit of a hand by just shifting his body just enough. It's like his movement was very, very good. He touched the ball plenty. He had 35 passes on the night and total of 56 touches. So not the most touches or the most passes, but nonetheless, they were meaningful actions that he had. So I was very, very happy. And I'm finally looking at the FOB mob here. I typically don't during the game. He was actually the second highest rated player. Kai was number one. So kudos to him.
You mentioned Macania. He almost had a pretty decent blunder in the second half when he gets the ball back to Rick, and then Rick's kind of slides as he gets the ball out of play. And Rick also saved, I think it was Wagner, who didn't really get a strong enough touch, and Rick had to come out. So I think I agree with you guys entirely. It was one of those games where it was just a team win from top to bottom. I think it goes back again, we talk so much about Curtin Carnell, but I think it goes back to Curtin's point and over the past years where this team wins if every single player plays at a high level and does their job. And that's what it felt like tonight. As Sean says here, this is a team in every aspect. Everyone rooted for each other's success, playing together and smiling, having fun playing. Yeah, I think Sean, we saw that. I don't remember what game it was. It might have been Orlando. It was really, really, really early on in the season. And you guys probably remember the Philadelphia won a game in the first couple weeks of the season, and they were jumping around, hugging each other, smiling really big. We didn't see that last year with Curtin that much. So I think you're right, Sean. Not only they're playing well together, but they're visibly happy to be playing. And that's fantastic for the locker room and for on the field. I know some of the comments that come in as well. San Diego is up on Vancouver 2-0. So as of right now, the live standings, was it San Diego? It's San Diego FC, right? Yeah, that's just a stupid name. They have 36 points in the live standings for the Western Conference, and the East we have 40, with Cincinnati at 36. So we're still ahead of the Eastern, or the Supporter Shield rather, regardless of the outcome for that match in the West. So again, things to keep an eye on as we are on top of this table here. I want to keep up some more comments here. John says the amount of times we stepped in front just in time to win the ball as a team was impressive. Yeah, you know what, John? I was telling, I think, our friend Joe on text, who actually just joins us here as well, the defense was kind of getting beat at times pretty decently in the first half. I was really expecting to be 1-1 entering the locker room. Jose, any concerns in that first half with how our defense was getting picked apart a little bit too much for my liking? Or was it just maybe new faces on the field kind of having some rust there?
I frankly didn't really notice that. I think what was apparent to me was that like those first 15, 20 minutes, I felt like it was more Union sided than anything in the way that they were just happy with pressing and keeping up in the defensive third. If anything, let me ask you this: did you notice the Macania Jack Elliott pushing and
Yeah, I
shoving?
saw. Yeah, I
And then
saw that.
ultimately, Glesnes comes and just shoves Jack like once or twice, and then he goes back to his spot. It just cracked me up. But to your question, I personally didn't notice it, but that doesn't mean that you're not right. I was just amazed at how fast they were after it. I think the team knew that they weren't at their strongest,
Right.
and that if they were going to win, they had to come out and shock them a little bit, and that's what they did with how fast they started sort of pressing and trying to get up front and win the ball up there. It was I was very impressed with that because we've all watched enough Jim Curtin games where like the first 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes is just feeling it all out, and then by then it's like
hanging on for
halftime.
dear life.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
halftime, and then you restart the whole thing again. It was just not that exciting from time to time.
Absolutely. Manny says if they do well, Dad is going to take them back to get go-karts and ice cream. As we saw from that video last week, Mandy. That's a great point. Maybe they just got to do that on a weekly basis. Get some go-kart in, and that's it.
They ran out of Groupons.
Yeah, right. Vince, I think Kyle also mentioned this is the 5th fastest team to 40 points in MLS history, which is just a crazy stat. And I guess that's what happens when you win was 11 or go unbeaten 11 straight matches here. But Jillian, I want to ask you about our good friend Jack Elliott. It was very strange seeing him in red. Any thoughts on Jack? I mean, what was your emotions going through? Because obviously Elliott, we want to look at the MLS Cup game. He had a phenomenal game, but he's had a great history with this club. Any thoughts on nostalgia that you had with Jack Elliott?
Yeah, no, I did see some Jack and Jacob shoving as well, which I thought was funny. But yeah, no, it is weird seeing him in red. And I think, it was neat seeing the interactions at the beginning of the game and at the end. There's of course a lot of love there and such a history, but of course, like I think it was at the beginning of the match, they had to bring up the whole, he would have been the hero for the MLS Cup, except for the guy who shall not be named coming in, and I still have PTSD. But no, I think that it was bittersweet. Yeah, for sure. But I thought that he played pretty well, all things considered. He gets to step and be a captain and be a leader for that team. But yeah, they've just been having a rough go of it at home. Like that, they only have one win at home, Chicago. So you can see
record,
it on. Yeah,
this was Glesnes' 200th start.
Oh yeah, exactly. That too.
Yeah,
I completely lost track of that. That's fantastic. Good for him.
Yeah. So no, it was just weird seeing that interaction. I'm sure it had to be weird for them, especially for Jacob. There, but yeah, you could see the frustration on Jack's face too, like as well with that result. But
well, sure, you always want to beat your former team. Go ahead, Jose.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
Oh yeah, like make no mistake, on Sunday, we got Gazdag.
We're gonna mess him up. Pierre's gonna lay him out. You heard it here
Hey,
first.
I'm excited for you. Hey, and Kyle and I are going to be in Columbus for that. We're going to be in the press box for that. So,
hell yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, come on, Neil, have your debut and have a great game and be there to see it. But no,
exactly.
Yeah. So
Jose, what were you going to add in there?
Just looking at the team notes that we get post match.
Oh yeah.
First start of the year for Jeremy Raffanello. Eddie Davis III made his MLS debut. Yep. With tonight's victory, the Union beat Chicago on the road for the first time since May 8th, 2021.
2021.
Did the 40 points. Union lead the Supporter Shield, and even further now, I would think, Vancouver was losing 3-0.
3-1, yeah.
And the Union extend their unbeaten streak to 11 matches in MLS, the longest in club history. Granted, the club's only 16 years old. Still a nice touch. Very, very cool.
Well, I'll give you a little trivia question for you too. Who scored the 2 goals in that May 8th match between the Union and Chicago. It's a 2-0 result.
That wasn't the Quinn Sullivan bicycle kick that game, was it?
No. One player is still on the roster, the other player is not.
What year was this?
2021, Kyle.
Kyle coming out of nowhere, trying to act like he's part of the show now.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Ooh, that's a good question.
Flock.
No. Flock definitely did not score in Chicago. It
Mm.
was Jacob Glesnes as the second goal, but our friend Corey Burke scored
Corey Burke.
in the 51st minute. And Janice says Casper. Good guess there, Casper. But no, it was Corey Burke and Jacob Glesnes as the goal scorers. So I guess Jacob does well in Chicago. So, I mean, the Windy City is no match for him. Looking back on the notes to talk about tonight, one of the things I wanted to ask you guys was also we briefly talked about the MLS All-Star, results earlier in the show. But what we didn't talk about, I was waiting for both of you to come on, was the kits that came out. It was like that it's just like a white T-shirt with the green and the blue. I wanted to hear your thoughts on those MLS All-Star kits.
Boring. No, I don't like them. They're way too boring. They have, first of all, they have the Seattle color scheme kind of, plus all the white. But I want to say, I saw, maybe it was Jeff Mitchell said, I forget, someone said on Twitter something like, that it's giving, hey, they're Delilah vibes, as in plain white tees.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought that was a great comment. So yeah, it's like they've had some really fun ones the last few years. That one is like basically phoned in. So
Jose, any thoughts on the very, very poorly done MLS kit?
I look forward to seeing it at Ross or Burlington. Like I think this is as bad or close to as poor as the Marvel collaboration a couple of years ago or a year or two ago with the Captain America shield. I got that without branding at Ross for $3.
I have this. I just Googled a picture online real quick. It's not the clearest picture, but you get the idea. It's quite literally just a white shirt. It has like very faint design on the torso of the shirt, but it's really just like, let's wing it. Like they asked the intern, just throw something together. We missed our deadline, and he's like, okay. My favorite band is what's it called? The Plain White Tee. So here we go. This is our,
I just don't understand how they don't like. There's so much history in the city of Austin, especially like Mexican American and like the Spanish speaking culture. Like imagine like a kit with like papel picado, like that cut up paper that the Mexican culture does to like hang across. Like imagine like it would be. Oh yeah, and it is $150. Yeah,
that's insane.
$150. That's criminal.
Who's gonna pay that?
Criminal.
That's insane.
Gosh. But anyways, there's so much. But I actually like the Austin proper kits quite a bit, the green ones, and I think
those
they're
are
very
nice.
sharp. Yeah, and even their alternates or away or whatever they are, like I think that they're a pretty good outfitted team. I think that this is very much a situation where, yes, reasonable minds can differ a little bit here, but like this is where it's starting to really show that maybe, just maybe, it's time to, I can't forget to when, but like once that Adidas deal's coming to an end, like there has to be some serious bidding for whether it's a single entity that outfits the entire league or it's a free for all where teams can go and find outfitters. Like, I would die for the Union to go like an Umbro or like a good quality Puma, not like a crappy template Puma, but like a good quality Puma. Like I would buy that in a heartbeat for just to wear. So yeah, I just can't believe it's $150. That's
you.
That's
I love Adidas too. Like all my shoes are Adidas. It kills me that they put out that poor product. I was about to say, so John brings up a comment here, and I was actually going to say, John, you must be an NBA fan. And then his next comment after he mentioned this one is that NBA had a very similar black versus white All-Star jersey 3 or so years ago. But to his first comment, All-Star games are better when the players wear their own team's jersey, which I've also always enjoyed. The NBA All-Star games, you always had all their players wearing the dark away jerseys or their home jerseys. Always looked the best. So I agree with you there 100%, John. But it's funny because like we had a full match tonight, but there were so many things to talk about outside of this match, like with the Sunday thing with center backs and this MLS stuff, Kai Wagner being snubbed, Jack Ellie being back. There was so much to talk about. So I feel like this conversation has just gone everywhere. But that's kind of what happens when you have a 1-0 slugfest. But last thing to talk about, I guess, would be, God, I feel bad bringing him up, but I think it's time to put to rest the Chris Donovan conversation. And I think once Ty Baribo and Ua come back and you have Damiani, do you two agree that Marcus Anderson has to take his spot? Because tonight he was once again fairly irrelevant.
I'll speak for Jillian. She'll say a hard yes.
Jillian?
Yes. Marcus should be ahead of Chris Donovan. Yeah, 100%. I think Marcus just brings such a great energy onto the field. I really do. And he's, I think, really earned it. He's versatile too. I know Richter's used him as a 10. You know, he can play, you know, several different spots on the field. But like, yeah, he definitely is good at being where he needs to be. And as long as he stays healthy.
Vince says without Donovan, the game is 0-0. Very true, Vince.
That's the one. And I was saying this to Kyle. I'm like, that's the one credit. You know, Dono, like he led to that PK. So that's the one good thing and whatnot. So he does have a tendency to sometimes just have fluky good things happen like that. And like the late goal against Querétaro, I think it was a couple years ago, the Leagues Cup one. But gosh, I think Marcus is really making a case for himself to, you know, jump Donovan.
Yeah, I think that's the one. I mean, I said at the beginning of the show before you guys joined on, I don't want to harp on Donovan too much. We kind of talked about him for about 5 or 10 minutes last week. But I think when every single player on this roster, and I think one of the comments mentioned, all these kids seem to be stepping up. Everybody's stepping up. Everybody's playing well. Even on a really like a tough game like tonight, you're still finding these bright spots and these silver linings in every single position except for him. And I hate to say it, but I just do. I think once everybody gets healthy, if anybody's adding to the summer window, he's the one who has to get the boot at this point. I'm going to add here also, Evan says Adidas MLS deal runs through 2030, Jose. So you're not getting your wish anytime soon, according to Evan.
So my kid's going to be 10 before he's able to wear something other than Adidas and Philadelphia Union combined?
Yes.
Wow. That's kind of sad when you think about it. But hey, on the Chris Donovan thing, if I may,
I
started doing some light data analysis. I feel like Chris may be up there as one of the highest paid fourth option strikers in the league.
What do you mean? Because he makes like 200,000, doesn't he?
Correct. So I think he's up there in terms of being one of the highest paid fourth, or I guess he's fourth option, right? Because it's Damiani, Baribo, Ua. So like he's up there. So, you know, kudos to him and his agent for getting the money that he got. I personally, I was so blindsided when that deal was announced, as much as like Mbaiso's deal when that was announced. It's just kind of like, I thought this would have been let's move on type of situation. But you know, you can never fault a player for getting his bag, and just clogs up things a bit, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, it's almost midnight. I've been up since 4 a.m. I'm very tired. I started the show with my microphone off. That's just where my brain's at right now. So we're going to wrap it up here. Jillian, anything from the one team we agree on that we should
Yeah, so we've had a lot of articles up. Kyle's going to be putting out a travel article for Columbus, and I'll be covering Union 2 tomorrow. I'll be at the game. I hope to see lots of people at the game tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see, you know, how that goes as well. But I was down at training yesterday and talked to Richter and saw first team training too and all that. But they, you know, Union 2 does have guys back. The 18s, some of them are going to need to step up, so should be good. So definitely encourage people to come out to Subaru Park tomorrow and cheer them on, because it's always a good time. And but yeah, Kyle and I are heading to Columbus, so both of us are going to be covering it there. So if anyone's going out to Columbus, let us know. And but yeah, we'll be bringing the coverage from there as well.
Enjoy Ohio. That's all I'm going to say. Jose, anything for you, sir, on Substack or anything else in between?
Shout out to Gavin Wetzel. Departed for college, if I understand. Good for
Mhm, he
him.
did.
Congratulations. Best of luck. Hopefully, he's able to come back at some point and play next year if he wants to. I'm sure he would. Maybe things change and he maybe takes up a professional career. So I just want to mention that. For me, just sort of keeping an eye on the news and just posting as I can. I put out the salary guide information today. Thank you, Jillian and Kyle and Todd, certainly for eyeballing that. It was just, they always share it without any anticipation. So it was very much like, oh, I got 45 minutes to punch in this chart. I'm glad I got it sort of set up ahead of time. But I'm on assignment for MLS this weekend. I don't think I have the Sunday game. Did that get flexed? I thought this game, that the Union game was this Saturday, not Sunday.
It's Sunday because I have a
Sunday
wedding
at
on
6.
Saturday.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, was it always on Sunday?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, then I have some games on Saturday. I don't know. I'm surprised that MLS didn't. Oh, by the way, Nashville, Sam Surge, I think matched Tyber Rebo in the Golden
He
Boot race.
passed him.
He's passed him. I think
passed him
Valerie
by
mentioned he's
one.
got he's got
Yeah.
15 or 14 now.
What bad timing to be stuck in Israel, huh? For all fronts, every
Right?
possible front. So, but beyond that, I'll be at the Real Madrid game tomorrow in Salzburg.
Oh.
I'm an alternate to commentate for the blind in the in-house Spanish broadcast. So
Wow.
if someone gets sick, I will be behind the microphone commentating for legally blind people. So that's a new little side gig.
Add that to the damn resume there. Yeah, listen, guys, I appreciate you joining me today. Like I said, I'm struggling today to just function at this point. This is Across the Pitch Union postgame show. We will be back Sunday night after that match. I believe, what time is the game on Sunday? Anyway, speaking of 6 o'clock. So an earlier night for all of us this coming weekend. So Sunday night postgame show will be 15 to 20 minutes after the final whistle. So please join us there in the comments. Besides that, the Union pull off a 1-0 victory in Chicago. Somehow, some way, this team continues to find a way to get points, and I'm very pleased with it. And the Sixers drafted well tonight. So it's a good night overall. Thanks for joining us in the comments, everybody. Go Union.